Hiya, we are live. So welcome to the first Q&A Sundays. So as I've said, I'm going to be going live every last Sunday of each month just to answer your questions. So whatever it may be about, whether it's about property, personal finance, investments, entrepreneurship, anything, ask me absolutely anything, and I'm here to answer your questions. So yeah, I'm going to be referring... Oh. Sorry, I've just got the live up on my laptop as well because I'm going to be referring to my laptop for your questions. As well as that, I do also have some pre-prepared questions to go through just in case that anyone's I don't know, nervous about going first or whatever. But yeah, so I'll give it a couple of minutes and then yeah, we'll get started. I'll just give it another minute or so just in case anybody wants to join. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So, first question for tonight. Is it better to get a buy-to-let property under a limited company, and can you also convert the property and add more rooms if you wanted to? So yes, it is definitely better to get a buy-to-let property under a limited company, and that is simply for tax benefits, so you pay less tax if you do it under a limited company. And then also there's mortgage interest relief benefits. So prior to 2 years ago, if you did it all under your own name, buying a buy-to-let property that is, you sort of had kind of very similar advantages, whereas in the last 2 years regulations have changed, and so unless you move your buy-to-let properties under a limited company, you can't claim the same mortgage interest relief. Obviously I'm not an accountant, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but I do have a video about using an accountant to manage your buy-to-let property under a limited company and things like that. So I will add the link to that video in the description box of this video, so if you want to do a replay, you'll be able to link to that video. But yeah, definitely better to buy it under a limited company. The follow-up question to that was also, can you convert the property and add more rooms if you wanted to? So yeah, with a buy-to-let property, honestly, you can do whatever you want with the property. Sometimes you will require planning permission, but for things like adding an additional room, you won't need planning permission for that. It's just a case of you looking at the floor plan, the layout of the property, and seeing really what you can do with it. That's sometimes the case whereby you can just split a room, or maybe convert a room that was once used maybe as a second lounge or a living room into an additional bedroom. It's down to you really, and trying to get the most value out of the property as you can. So that is definitely possible. Next question. As I said, I'm looking over to the side because I've got some questions loaded up on my laptop, and my laptop is just over on the side here. Actually, maybe I'll just put it on my lap. That makes sense. Right, so next question. Advice for getting started with sourcing. So the one thing that I always say is that, right now sourcing is a very competitive market. There's loads of property sources out there, so you need to be able to stand out from the crowd. So for me, one thing that I found is being social and present is a very big thing. So for me, I started doing sourcing during lockdown last year, I think September. So for me, social media has been a very big part of the whole sourcing process. So I always say, if you're going to start a sourcing business, you want to be present, create content online, let people have somewhere to find you. Don't just say you're selling deals, but show them the numbers, show them examples, let them know that you are actually somebody that is credible in doing this thing, and just build on relationships from there. So definitely being social, being present online is a big way to start in sourcing. It's also a way that you can attract investors to yourself, because again, they can see that they're working with a real person, somebody that is credible, knows what they're doing, and I think it's definitely one of the best ways that you can do it. We've got a comment. Oh, it's gone. How can I see it? Bear with me, guys. This is my first time going live on my phone, so it's a bit of a funny one. Hello, great content, thank you. How long is it usually? Oh, it's disappeared. Sorry guys, bear with me. How long is it usually to find your investment from when you start? Hey Arda, thanks for sending in your question. So when you say how long is it usually to find it, do you mean to find the investment property? Because I mean, it depends really. The property market is one of those things whereby you can find a really good property tomorrow. Sometimes it may take you a couple of months, like it just all varies really. But I think you just need to know your criteria and go from there. As long as you find a property that, you know, meets your top criteria, because no property is going to be perfect. So it's, you know, these are properties that have been built how many years ago, most times if you're doing it for investment purposes. And so yeah, as long as you find a property that meets your top criteria, gives you the kind of yields and rental yields, that is return on investment, that you're looking for, then I think you're about ready to go and start making moves towards starting the purchase. If you're talking about in terms of completing the purchase process, if you're using a mortgage, likely it's going to take you about 8 to 12 weeks, depending, because obviously, you know, you need to consider the seller situation, your situation. Do you have a mortgage already? Do you need to start applying? All those kind of things. My first investment, how long, so do you mean how long did it take me? It didn't take me very long to find mine, to be honest. So I booked in some viewings for a particular day, and the property I ended up buying actually wasn't on the list that day. So it was a last minute thing whereby I'd gone to see a number of properties. The estate agent had said to me, actually, we've got this additional property. It kind of sounds like the kind of thing you'd be looking for. It doesn't require any work. And so they slipped it in last minute, and literally when I went in, like, I knew it was mine. Like, I was just like, yeah, this is the one. So yeah, for me it was pretty smooth. When I got started, I didn't know, I wouldn't say I knew too much about property investing. I just knew I wanted to get a property, start collecting rental income, and, you know, wait for capital growth. But yeah, fortunately I was able to get a property that didn't take, you know, too much on my part. Like, it wasn't too much hassle finding it. So yeah, thank you very much for that question. That was a very good one. Guys, if you're watching and you have any questions, please do feel free to also put them in the chat. That is what this session is all about. I don't just want to be talking away. I know I mentioned I've got some questions loaded up from, like, people asking me previously. But if you have anything on your mind, please do drop it in the comments, in the chat, and I will answer that for you. I quickly just want to say I've also got a new feature on here. It's called Super Chat or Super Stickers. So if you do want to support my channel in any way, there's no pressure. If you want to, that is, you can get a super chat or a super sticker. Super chat is basically where your comments will be highlighted for the duration of this live, I believe it is. Super stickers are just stickers that you can just purchase, and it will just show up against your name on this live. So I just wanted to mention that. So let's go on to the next question. Right, so I was actually talking about advice for getting started with sourcing. So yeah, social media is definitely a big one for me, and I think in this current, you know, era that we're in, that's going to be a big one. Obviously networking events are always there, but I think there's not been as many because obviously we've been in the lockdown. As well as that, co-sourcing. If you're looking to start property sourcing in this saturated market, it's very, very important that you collaborate with other property sources that are already doing what you want to do. By doing that, you get some first-hand experience and exposure to what sourcing is like, and you can also start making money, especially if you're somebody that you don't have a client database yet, or, you know, maybe you don't have deals. Whichever it is, if you're someone that's able to find deals, you can collaborate with sources that have investors ready to buy. And if you're somebody that's maybe got investors ready to buy already, but you don't have the deals, you can collaborate with other sources that have deals, and in that way you can both, like, take a cut from the fee. So those would be my top main, you know, bits of advice if you're looking to get started with property sourcing. Shall we move on to the next question? I think I saw a comment. I'll just have a quick read. Yes. How long does it take for you to generate one lead? I mean, it varies. So when you say lead, do you mean investors? For me, getting investors, from the time the investor agrees working with you up until sale, it comes down to what the market's like. So this year in particular has been quite challenging in that we all know the market's been very, very busy. A lot of people in the market buying, and a lot of the time willing and are actually paying over asking price for properties. So as a property sourcer, like, I don't work magic. Like, you know, it's not been feasible to try and claim 10%, 20% below market value property deals. Like, it's just not something that is very frequent right now. So it's been very challenging. I can't say there's a certain lead time with property sourcing. It's just as and when good deals come up. Obviously, your criteria for what a good deal looks like will vary. You know, for one person, a good deal is one whereby as long as you've got a 5% yield, you're fine, which I believe is always good. If it's a buy to let, I think 5% is the minimum you should go for. Someone else, on the other hand, may be looking for an 8% yield, which, to be honest, is not very, very realistic for a single let, buy-to-let property. It is possible at times, but that shouldn't be like the minimum that you're looking for to say, oh yeah, this is a good deal, because it's not the norm. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, hopefully I answered that question. Thank you for submitting that. Let's go on to... how did I get started with property and any advice? So I kind of feel like, well, I've touched upon advice, but for me, it was just a case of, I knew I wanted to get started with building a property portfolio. I was just like fixed on saving that first deposit, because I knew once I got my hands on that first property, it was going to be a lot smoother and a lot easier for me to get my hands on, you know, properties after that, because I always speak on the power of leveraging when it comes to property. Once you have one property, honestly, that is your bag of money there, because literally you can refinance and remortgage on a property, pull out equity from it and put it towards, you know, another property. You may not even have to use any of your other cash to fund, you know, the next property deal, just because you've built up enough equity in the property that you already own and can just use that to finance your deals going forward. So yeah, the power of leveraging has always been something that I hold very dearly. And so yeah, for me, it was just a thing of saving that first deposit and getting started with my with a buy-to-let property. So I hope that clears that up. How long did it take for you to save for your first property? So I've got a video about that, so in the replay I will link that in the description. But in brief, it took me, I'd say, about a year and a half really. But the thing is, even after I'd saved my deposit, I was still very reluctant and hesitant, just because of the fear that, oh, you know, this is a lot of money that I'm going to put down into one property. What if it doesn't work? What if I don't get tenants in there? What if it doesn't increase in value? And all those kind of things, like just those fears, because obviously when you're putting down such a huge amount of money, naturally, I suppose, you know, it makes sense to be scared. But yeah, it took me a year and a half really to save it, and I was fortunate because of the way that I was working at that time, in the sense that it allowed me to be very very disciplined and stick to a certain amount that I was willing to spend each month on myself, in order to be able to save that deposit a lot faster. So yes, that is that question. Thank you for submitting that question. What should we go on to now? Did you pay for any courses regarding property sourcing? So no, I did not pay for any courses, simply because I just felt that it wasn't something that I needed to do. I didn't think there was that much to it. I think my main questions were more about the compliance setup, contracts that you need to use, those kind of things. So I was able to find the answers to those questions elsewhere, and so I didn't find the need for property sourcing training or course. I've mentioned previously as well that I do have people around me that act as sort of like mentors, so I'm able to leverage on those people's knowledge, and yeah, it helped me in being able to go on to start my own sourcing business without doing any training. So that's that one. I think I don't want to miss any questions, so I'm just being conscious. Okay, thank you. You've done well. Yes, I'm currently trying to be very... Sorry guys, this one keeps popping up and closing. I'm currently trying to be very disciplined too on this saving journey. Oh, thank you. Yeah, honestly, you just have to be disciplined, and it's so worthwhile in the end when you can say, I was able to achieve this thing because I set my mind to it. So definitely all the best with it. You're really gonna like appreciate and be happy that you were able to do that when you know, finally meet that goal. So yeah, thank you for your question submissions. What should we go on to now? I get confused about property sourcing and deal packaging. Are they the same thing? Yes, property sourcing and deal packaging are exactly the same thing. I just tend to use property sourcing because I prefer the term. I feel like deal packaging or deal packager, I don't know, I just don't really like the sound of it. So that's the only difference, really. It's just which one you prefer, but it's the same thing. Next question. As a deal packager, do you also manage tenants for investors, or do you only go until the deal is signed and take the commission and move on to the next deal? Which would be the correct approach, or are both possible? So it all depends on you, really. You just need to make sure that you have the right compliance in place and the right setup. You can be a deal packager that literally just sells them the deal, takes the commission, take your commission and then walk away, or you can be someone that decides to provide management services thereafter, which is what this person's asking. So it all depends on you, really. What do you want to do? What do you want your property business to look like? And just make sure that you have yourself covered in terms of the right compliance and setup. So it's totally down to you. And then this is actually the final question that I had pre-prepared. So, you know, guys, if you're just joining, if you have any questions, please do drop them in the comments. I'm going to answer all of your questions tonight. That is what these Q&A Sundays are about. As I mentioned earlier, these are going to be every last Sunday of the month. And so if you don't have any questions this time, or maybe you can't think of anything, or maybe you're a bit nervous, don't worry. These are going to be every last Sunday of the month, and so you can always pop in and ask me your questions and I'll answer them. So yeah, the final question that I had was, how has the property sourcing journey been for you? Have you had much experience before? Did you struggle finding investors, or did you immediately start working with one investor after creating your limited company? For example, what was the longest time you waited until you found your investor, your first investor to work with? How has the journey been for me? I mean, to be honest, I expected more. I expected that I'd do more deals, but it's been slow. Maybe again because I said of how the market's been doing. I only started in property sourcing last September, so it's not even been a year yet. But because the market has been so buoyant and busy, as I said, people are overpaying, paying thousands above asking price, and so even as a property sourcer, there's only so much that I can do. Yes, sometimes I do come across these really good deals, and those are great, you know, progress with those. But generally, one thing I will say is that if you're looking to go into property sourcing, yes, it is the case that you can make a lot of money, but the fact of the matter is that you cannot guarantee that each and every month you're going to sell a deal. You just can't. That's just the reality. So it's definitely something that you have to be patient with. You literally just have to be on it, keep going, keep yourself motivated and focused to just keep pushing yourself, really. Don't be hard on yourself thinking, oh, you haven't found a deal, you weren't able to take something across the line, because there's so many variables involved. And when we're talking property here, again, this is money that people need to part with. Property sourcing it's a luxury thing, really, because the service is anything from, you know, most sources charge between 1% to 2% per deal, and so it is a bit of a luxury service. It's not something that people just put their money into lightly without finding the value. So yeah, I just wanted to call that out. We've got a question. Please, what are your thoughts? It keeps popping up and disappearing. Okay, let me go for the first question. Thanks, Gabriel, for joining. In which areas in the UK will you advise we look into if you want to buy property from Africa? What are the price range? If you want to buy property from Africa, so are you saying you're an investor based in Africa? I mean, to be honest, the hotspots are up north. So your Nottinghams, Liverpool, Leeds, what's that other place? Up north basically is the hotspots right now, just because properties are cheap, you've got high rental yields. These areas have also seen a lot of growth over the last few years and are continuing to see development. The HS2 train line is also going to be cutting across a lot of these areas, and so it's going to increase house price values further in those areas. So those are really good areas to invest if you're somebody that you don't want to put too much down on a property, but you still want to see, you know, those gains and those benefits. So yeah, up north, Nottingham, Liverpool, Leeds, It's really annoying me that I can't remember the last one, but yeah, all those areas. Wales as well is another one, but obviously that's far from me. But yeah, South Wales is another big one that a lot of investors are moving towards, so you can definitely look into those areas. Of course, there are good investment locations all over the UK, but it all depends on your criteria and the price point that you're, you know, willing to buy at. So I hope that was helpful, and I'll get on to your next question, Gabriel. Please, what are your thoughts on student accommodation investments? I was actually having this chat with somebody the other day, and my thoughts on student lets. So currently, right now, it was something that I would have got into in the past, but I can't confidently say that I would do so now, and that's just because student lets, if you're going to do it, you need to be able to it's no longer a thing whereby you can just get a HMO and say, oh, I'm gonna, you know, get students in here, because the thing is, student accommodation standards are increasing like at a more rapid pace than previously. So nowadays, student accommodation is like nice, well furnished, like apartments, like really nice, to a really nice standard, almost like, you know, young professional sort of apartments. And so if you're gonna do student accommodation, you need to look into getting a property or properties, flats like that, because that's sort of the move. That's where a lot of student accommodation is going to. Yes, some students still do the whole HMO setup, but I think the way that it's going, I don't know, it may fade. I mean, don't quote me on that, because that's not my area. Student accommodation is not my area, but that's just my feeling. It's not really something that I wouldn't rely on that being the only plan. I would say if you're going to go into student accommodation, have a backup plan for what other use you could use that property for. Maybe you could, you know, rent it out to professionals. Do you know what I mean? Just have a backup plan for it. But other than that, I think, yeah, there's obviously definitely money to be made in university cities, because you'll have that constant, you know, supply of demand for your properties, because students, like, you know, in supply. That was a really good question. Thank you for that. Guys, if you're just joining, submit all the questions that you have: property, personal finance, investments, entrepreneurship, anything at all. Let me know. If I can answer it, I will do. That is what these Q&A Sundays are all about. Arda, thanks for your question. Are you specialised in London or all over the UK? So it's for me. So what I do is that I specialise in London, Greater London. So that's like Essex and then parts of Kent also. But I work with other sources based all around the UK. So that's how I'm able to like work on deals outside of, you know, Greater London. So West Midlands is also an area that I collaborate on. And then some parts of the north as well, because I have some property sourcing connections over there. So that's that one. But yeah, so guys, if you have any final questions, please do let me know. I've come to the end of my own list here of pre-prepared questions that I had from previously from before. Yeah, but thank you to everyone that's joined tonight and, you know, submitted questions. You've made the session really good and lively, and I mean, this is what these sessions are for, really. It's good to be able to know what you guys want to know, speak to you on a level, and really like talk about the things that are on your mind, rather than just, you know, sit down on my own videos when I'm just feel like I'm just talking to myself. But yeah, thank you to everyone that's joined tonight. Any final submissions, please do let me know. Just drop them in the comments. And yeah, if not, I suppose I will be seeing you in the next Q&A Sundays, which will be the last Sunday of next month, September. I can't remember the day that's going to be. But yeah, if there's no other questions, I think I'll leave you guys to it so that you can enjoy the rest of your evenings and have a good start to the week. Thanks for the insights. Could you please give some guidance on the starting prices in the north as mentioned? Starting prices, so it depends on what you're looking for. If it's a flat, you can get something from as low as 50k, 40k even in some parts. It just all depends. I would advise having a brief search into the north side of England, and you can basically start by looking at the cheapest property, the cheaper areas, and you will see how how cheap the properties are there. But in terms of Nottingham, which I mentioned, Nottingham, a 2-bed house, you can get that from, I believe, about £90,000, and it'll probably just require a little bit of a refurb. So yeah, it's definitely a lot more affordable than other parts of the UK. You definitely couldn't get that here where I am. Also looking for around a 2 to 3 bed for a family. Okay, are you looking for sourcing, Saeed? I don't know. If you want to drop me an email just to elaborate a bit further on that, maybe I can support you with that. Oh, sorry, I missed the first part of the question. As a first-time buyer looking to buy a property in the West Midlands, it just keeps disappearing, but currently living in Greater London, would it be worth looking to source a place there? I mean, it depends. Why not? If it's an investment purchase, then I mean, the property doesn't literally need to be on your doorstep. I always say that if you're looking to get an investment property, as long as it's somewhere that you can reasonably get to when you need to, it's not a problem. Like my investment property is what, an hour, just under an hour away from me. I don't think that's too bad. Once you've got your tenants in there, it's just a case of doing inspections from time to time, maybe a couple times a year, you know, 3 times a year, depending on the tenants you have in there and how much you feel you need to keep an eye on them. But yeah, as long as the property is not too far away from where you are, or within reasonable distance as to where you feel you can travel to, then yeah, go for it. Definitely go for it, because properties in these parts of London are pretty expensive. pretty expensive. Right. Okay, so if that was everyone's questions, I'm gonna leave you all to it. Once again, thank you so much for joining. This has been a really good, lively session. I've enjoyed it. Hopefully you have also. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please do so, and then you'll get notifications whenever I create more videos about, you know, these kind of topics. And yeah, I'll leave it at that, and I'll catch you guys on the next Q&A Sunday. So I'll see you next month at this time also. Thank you guys. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and experiences. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for joining. So yeah, have a lovely evening, guys, and have a great week ahead. Bye. Oh, thank you, Saeed. See you later. Bye, guys.